Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the TWNY podcast. Just a quick reminder that we are not professional medical personnel and TWNY is not a replacement for medical treatment. And as always, if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, head on over to our website at www.twny.life and reach out. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and remember, it's okay to not be okay.
I'll be honest, I don't remember his face. I don't remember what vehicle he was driving. I don't even remember the color. The one thing I will take away from that is I listened to 27 missed calls.
All right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. So Anthony, the mailman.
The mailman, that is correct.
Question for you.
Yes.
Does anyone ever call you Tony?
Off and on. It depends. Some friends have called me Tony because they just didn't know any better. But most of the time I get called Anthony. My mom hated when people called me Tony. Was livid. So
I picture people coming up to you and like, "Hey, Tone."
Do you know who I am?
Oh man, super good to have you on here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited, pumped.
So yeah, I have a confession to make. Don't have a TikTok, but I do follow you on Instagram.
Okay.
Got that mailman goodies happening there, posting some good stuff. So kind of an interesting, I guess, episode of the podcast we have going on today or tonight, because never had a celebrity on.
Whoa, easy now. I would say social media influencer at most.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. And then this is a special episode. I was being serious when I said that because there's a whole nother group of people that are probably going to be watching this, your fans, your followers, which is huge.
I hope so. I really do. I hope that there are a few that come on here and stuff like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So for those who don't know who the mailman is, let's give him an intro.
Yeah. So I am a social media influencer. I work specifically more in TikTok, a little bit of YouTube and Instagram. And I focus mostly on rebuilding cars and just making them rip. So
making them rip. That's nice, man. And now it's not just any cars, right? Now this is you got a focus, right? It's like Japanese made cars, correct?
Yeah. So I focus mostly in Japanese automotive, but more or less along the Nissan Datsun line. For people that watch my channel, or maybe some of the people that watch yours, they might know the two cars behind me is a 240Z and a Datsun 260Z that I actually just picked up today. But yeah, I mostly focus on the older school Japanese cars along with Skylines and that RB platform and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I'm known for in the social media world is the RB and the Skylines. So,
and I'm pretty, I don't know much about this stuff, right? But I was talking to one of my cousins about the fact that I was doing a show with you, and I mentioned what you do, and he didn't say anything, and then I was like, because I said you're the mailman, and he had some jokes about that, and he's like, well, why though? And I was all like, well, he drives a right-hand Skyline, and his jaw almost hit the floor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He was super excited.
That's awesome. Yeah,
man.
Actually, it's funny because where I got the name from was actually one of my bosses. When I first bought the Skyline back in 2019, he walked up to me and was like, "What are you, the mailman now?" And I was like, "Thank you very much for that."
I needed that. I was stuck on a username, and now I got it.
Yep, that was the calling.
That's awesome, man. That's super awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for the podcast. I don't even know what to call it, honestly. But thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, man. We hang out quite a bit, and I've been able to talk to you and pick your mind a little bit about mental health and things like that, just because, I'm interested in what you do, and naturally, it comes around to what I do. And then you kind of had some stuff to say about it. And that's kind of how this got started, was just hearing you talk about your thoughts on mental health and how it's affected you and stuff like that in your industry, as well as personally. I just had to have you on, dude. So,
Yeah.
but with that, man, just, I really, really want to get started talking about social media in general, because, I got a bone to pick with social media a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Just, I only say that because there's a lot of negativity flowing around on Facebook, Instagram, probably TikTok too. And I feel like it's breeding a lot of mental health problems. And I kind of wanted to know what you thought about that. Being an actual influencer, being like right in the middle of it, making the content, dealing with negative and positive people, how that's kind of like affected what you do.
Yeah. So when I first started posting, okay, kind of going back, let's start. Let's just say my first post I ever posted really actually blew up much larger than I thought it was going to. I mean, at the time I had no followers, and in a day I had 35,000 people watching this one video. And nobody really commented anything bad. It was all really positive, and I was like, awesome, like this is like the direction. I really like this.
Yeah.
Let me keep posting. And
Easy
then
day.
yeah, exactly. Easy day. Everyone just loved the skyline and stuff like that. And it was in like a mountain view or something like that. But when I started posting more is when I started getting the hate. When are you gonna do this? Your car doesn't make this much power, or stuff like that. And for myself, the negative comments definitely did get to me. And some people, it shuts them down. Like I know some people, like when people are negative to them or have negative comments, they just stop posting for a month or so. Like they're just like, I can't deal with this. For myself, it doesn't necessarily shut me down. It makes me angry. And I'm like, well, the X, Y, and Z, this is why, blah, blah, blah. Just like today, I posted a video of my new car that I just got.
Yeah.
And the very first comment, which if any of my followers are watching knows exactly what I'm talking about, is the guy said, dang, is this dude ever going to finish a build? Because I've had so many different builds on this channel, and some of them I have sold incomplete because I got a really good price for them. And I wanted to sit there and comment and be like, you have no idea, blah, blah, blah. But I had to stop. And I was like, you've dealt with this before. This is something that you're used to. And I pretty much I informed them like, hey, my skyline's at the paint and body, so I'm just waiting. But at the same time, I cracked a joke and was like, you know what? You're right. I probably will never finish one until the day I die. Actually, the day I die will probably be the one that I finish.
Yeah, and it'll be the skyline.
So, yeah, exactly. And it'll be the skyline. So I have made it to where I've turned negative comments or negative hate, because I don't post anything that is necessarily controversial, to where I have an opinion about something and there's a bunch of people that want to argue with me. I'll never post something like that because I'm not that kind of person. It's more or less just negative hate towards the channel. So I typically take those negative comments and I make a joke out of them, just so it makes me at the end of the day happy. And maybe that person will realize, like, maybe that hate comment that I put wasn't something that I should have put,
Right.
And at the same time, the other big issue that you have in social media when it comes to negative comments is, being a social media influencer, there's a lot of give and take that you have, and your followers, I'm telling you, your followers will follow, or like will help you to the teeth. Like I've had people to, like, when I've broken down, text or message me on TikTok and be like, hey, where are you at? I'll drive and find you. And they could be 20 hours away. So when it comes to the negative comments, what will happen is some people will put a negative comment and then you have 100 comments under that defending me. But now that's putting that one person that didn't like my build in a state in which maybe they're getting a bunch of hate and they don't know how to handle it.
That's interesting. That's interesting that, like, you kind of, that it turns it around in your head a little bit, like, oh, I didn't want this person to get, chastised for their negative opinion.
Right. So that's why for myself, I try to throw more of a joke in there. That way people either laugh at what I say or they just ignore it. And, honestly, even though some people may disagree, I think ignoring someone's hate comment, if you are someone watching the video and you want to say something, I think ignoring it has a bigger impact than sitting there and trying to comment, because now you're just putting that person down instead of that person realizing one day, maybe what I'm saying is just not getting
Mhm.
through because they just don't care at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I like
So
that. I like that making the joke. That seems like it works pretty well because because they don't it kind of takes the wind out of the sails. You know what I mean? Like
right.
they're in there, they're coming in hot-headed with something. And then, like you said, if you don't say anything, and then you got, 100 other people who are just dogpiling on this guy for maybe he was joking too. And then all of a sudden now he feels like he's like the most hated person on TikTok.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's the thing too, is that like some people, some of their hate comments, and that goes back to like the tone in which you comment something, which we have talked about briefly before, is like if I text you and I'm like, hey dude, are you coming? And you're like, yeah, dude, I'll be there. And I take it the wrong way. Like maybe
yeah,
sometimes that can happen. Some dude will be like, are you ever gonna finish a build? And maybe they meant it in like a question, like, are you ever going to finish a build? Or maybe they did mean it in a hate, but
yeah,
it's hard to sit there and determine that because you're not that person or you're not seeing them face to
right.
face. And
Well,
yeah,
and trying to read the minds like that is such a strain on the brain, like I've
yeah,
I've stopped doing it. My mom actually, a couple weeks back, I would say, maybe it was a couple weeks, I can't remember, but I texted her something I was excited about. I can't remember what it was. And she commented back. I sent a nice long text about it, and then it was like LOL. That's what she sent me.
I
And I was
hate
like,
that.
that was it. And I was like, I like, and she's done that before, and I've called her up and I'm like, Mom, like, are you all right? Is something going on? And she's like, no, I'm totally fine. And it's like, no, you can't do that. You just can't do.
Well, I think also too, I mean, not saying that me and you are old because we are by no means old, but I think texting over time has changed because most of the time people would put like, LOL, that's so funny, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
now it's started to get shorter and shorter. Like there
Hmm.
are some people, I don't know what they've texted me before, but some people have texted me some like acronyms that meant something, kind of like LOL is laugh out loud.
Yeah.
That I had to Google it because I was like, what in the world does this
Like,
mean?
what is the act? Yeah, I've run into some acronyms I don't know for sure.
Yep.
One of the things that I've found is it feels weird to me now when I'm texting someone and they don't use emojis and I do. And when I'm using emojis, I feel, and they don't, like, if they like the whole text thread, they don't use it, I feel like a child. I'm like, what have I done?
Yeah, I totally understand where that's coming from, 100%. Because I've done that before with with like a customer. I'll be like, dude, your engine's so messed up, and like put a laughy face, and they're like,
Mhm.
how much is that going to be? And I'm like, oh god.
Oh man. Well, and kind of going back to what we were saying a little bit too, is we talked before, and I wrote this down. It's a pretty simple thing that you said, but man, it really does kind of put it all out there that basically somebody's always going to hate you. It's a super negative thought to say, but it's true though. I mean,
It's 100% true.
and it's not even something that you should be upset about because there's so many people out there and with all kinds of different opinions. I think maybe it's a good thing to think of that because it's like, you don't have to try and make everyone like you. Once you
Right.
realize that there's always, no matter how many people you got liking, there's always going to be someone or two people or three people that's going to hate you.
A
So,
100%. Yeah, and and that's sad, right? It
mhm,
truly is. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't make everyone in this world happy.
yeah.
If I tried to make everyone in this world happy, these cars would have different engines in them, different paint colors every single day. I
Mhm.
would be broken. Yeah, it would be a terrible, terrible time. So the biggest thing is ignoring them or making the best out of it, instead of harnessing it as hatred and or anger or being, like we said, shut down. Like
Yeah.
that is the last thing that you want because then they're winning. And at the end of the day, especially when you're growing a social media account, that's just not the answer. And
Yeah.
especially when I first started, like I was posting 2 or 3 videos a day. So when you post 2 or 3 videos a day and you're averaging at least 10,000 views per video, like you have no control over that. And
Yeah.
you just kind of need to get to the point where you're like, it is what it is. Either somebody's going to say something to them because they're
Mhm.
behind, or nobody's going to say anything at all. And they're just going to stop talking.
No,
So
absolutely, man. So that's kind of a good segue into talking a little bit about the power that you guys have. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So I was crunching some numbers. There's a YouTuber that I can't even, man, I wish I had the numbers in front of me when I was crunching it, but there was a YouTuber, super like prolific YouTuber. His name's PewDiePie. You know PewDiePie, right?
Oh yeah. Of course.
Shout out to PewDiePie. What's up? If you ever watch this, which he won't.
I love you, man.
But when he was doing, the amount of followers he has or subscribers, right, is like, you can calculate it in like an actual percentage of the world population.
Yes. Yep.
Like that's the level that he's at. And so you're like looking at it and you're like, whoa, okay. So if he were to get on and just say something wild or have like take a hard stance on something, right? That power that he's going to have over people on social media, that especially young people that, are a bit more susceptible to their minds being changed about things, and, ideas that maybe they haven't fully thought about yet. The power is incredible. And
it's ridiculous. You're absolutely right.
And on another level, not necessarily that same level, but creators like yourself, same thing.
Yeah. So a big thing that we will do as creators, and really helps us grow, is we will get in contact with one another, especially if we share the same hobby. Mm-hmm. And we'll create collaboration videos, or somebody will say something in their video about another account. And what it'll do is move those followers also over to that person. If it's like, hey, go follow TWNY because they are the best in the world and they love X, Y, and Z, a portion of those followers may be like, man, I actually really like what he's saying, and go over to, your channel or podcast.
Hey, thanks for the followers, man.
Yeah, of course. And I think the big thing though is you're absolutely right about the power that we have. And sometimes it can be really bad. And I mean, like, the one thing that we deal with over in the car world is people will, a large creator will talk down on a smaller creator and be like, the car's slow, or you're just, BSing us and whatnot. And then all of those followers that are like, oh yeah, this is the guy I follow, this is the big guy. Screw that little guy, nobody cares. And now this little guy is either having to come up with a way to get out of that, or he shuts down his entire channel. I've seen channels completely shut down because somebody said something negative and all of the followers went straight there. Perfect example right now, okay? And I'm not going to be debatable about it or anything like that, but if you look at the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case, I don't care about who's right, who's wrong.
Yeah.
Look at the amount of followers that are like, go Johnny, and look at the amount of followers that are like, screw you, Amber Heard.
Right.
It's crazy. It's 100% crazy. And it's just because of the fact that somebody, a large influencer, said, this is what this person did, I don't really like it. And everyone's like, you're right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and absolutely. I mean, Johnny Depp is without a doubt more famous than Amber Heard. And, he's got that buttery smooth voice, and he's got that charisma on the stand. You know what I mean? So when you get
that jar of dirt,
man. So no, that's actually a really good way to put that, because it's true. It seems like, regardless of the evidence, which I'm sure everything's going to be, they're going to do it, straight and narrow and make it all happen fine. But regardless of the evidence, it's already leaning in one direction because of who Johnny Depp is versus who Amber Heard is.
Absolutely.
And that is, so it's interesting. So for the cars, or for the car world, is that based on actual car experience, or is it just based on the fact that that person got in the game sooner than the smaller creator?
So it all depends. So I think the biggest one that I saw was a content creator, and I will never name names, but one guy has a very large following. We're talking well over 1 million, and he's just some kid that just happened to pick up at the right time and made funny content, and doesn't know really much of anything. And when I mean doesn't know much of anything, like, he has texted me before and was like, hey, what about this? And in my eyes, I'm like, dude, you have 1.5 million followers and you don't know about how to change
Yeah, do
injectors.
some research.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I could have been that guy and blasted this text or whatever it was out on TikTok and been like, look at this guy. You guys follow this guy and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And people would be like, yeah, you're right. Or, maybe some of his followers would try to defend him. He's just a kid, whatever. So yeah, it can be based on pretty much anything. It could be based on who you are as a person and your experience, or it could just simply be based on the fact that I have JDM cards in my shop and not American Muscle.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. But good on you, man, for not for taking that higher road. It'd be super easy for you to boost your channel to do something like that. But who knows who you would hurt doing something like that. And,
and not only
it
that,
costs nothing to be nice and just help someone out.
Right. And whether or not I want to say this out loud, drama is definitely what boosts followers in social media.
Of course.
But in my eyes, I would much rather have fun doing what I love instead of trying to find that drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And create that toxicity in the car world that we actually face. We face some pretty high toxicity compared to like the motorcycle world. If you ride on two wheels, somebody's happy. Another rider's like, heck yeah, dude. In the car world, it's not like that. In the car world, I guarantee I'll go down the road and park at a Walmart and someone will be like, why haven't you swapped the wheels on this yet? But they have no idea what's actually been done to the car. It's just how the game goes here in this side of the house. And it sucks, but at the same time, there's really nothing you can do about it. So maybe you can open their eyes, that person's eyes, but that's one person out of the 7 billion people in this world.
Yeah.
So.
All right, man. Well, so for you, like a lot of the people I've talked to on this show, this podcast, this has hit home for you personally. And I've known you for a little bit, long enough to say that I would have never guessed anything like this. And when I was going through my time when my cousin committed suicide, you came up to me, and because there was that day, I believe, you came up to me and you were like, something along the lines of like, I know what you're going through. And in that moment, I'll be honest with you, in that moment for me, I was all like, sure you do, and everyone's going to know what I'm going through right now. But I'm happy that you're telling me. And found out later that you 100% knew exactly what I was going through. Almost exactly what I was going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're ready to talk about that a little bit, man, it helped me hearing your story. Hopefully it helps other people, but I can definitely tell you it helped me when you told me about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll start off. Growing up, I was a older brother of 3. I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. And especially on my mom's side, being Italian, they all stick very close together. So my cousins obviously were like extended portions of siblings to me. And there was only one cousin that was older than me, and his name was Tim. And I looked up to him in certain situations just because he either had already experienced it because he was older, or he was a little bit more mature than me and taught me a lot. So like I said, I kind of looked up to him as an older brother in certain cases. We grew up riding dirt bikes together and getting into a little bit of the automotive stuff. When he was 18, he graduated high school early and he joined the Army because, like his father, who was in the Army, he wanted to do what his dad did. So he was like, I'm going to do that. So he joined the Army early and he got stationed over in Colorado under 4th ID. And he was there. When I turned 18 and I graduated high school, I then started work. And me and him kept in contact all the time because we kind of had similar jobs at the time. but obviously him being all the way in Colorado, we couldn't see each other very often. So we would just sit there and chat. And the funny thing is we were always competitive with each other, whether we were riding dirt bikes on the weekends when we were kids or when we were adults. Someone would buy a faster motorcycle or someone would buy a faster car. And that was kind of how it was. And to kind of picture what Tim is, I'm 5'7" and he is 5'5". So he's shorter than me, but he was 180 pounds of just stocky. He was an ox is what I described at his funeral whenever I had to speak. He was built like an ox. He looked like a miniature lumberjack. He could grow a beard. He was redheaded. Like he put on, the red plaid jackets from time to time and looked like this legit lumberjack.
I can picture it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, he was tough as nails. I don't really remember a time I ever saw his emotions come out. Even when his father passed away, I did not see him break any kind of bearing at all. At the funeral, nothing. And I asked him, "Hey, are you okay? Is everything okay?" And he was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, let's just get this over with. And that's how it went. So fast forward a little bit more, in 2017, he was married and he had a kid on the way. And he was kind of going through a rough part of his life. The unit that he was in not necessarily wasn't treating him bad, but he didn't like where he was at. He didn't like the environment, stuff like that. And he kind of had a little bit of an aggressive side to himself. Like he would snap sometimes. And I have experienced it when I was a kid. He'd get mad and he'd hit me, and it is what it is. You're a guy, you just take it or you hit back. So anyways, his wife comes up to him and is like, "Hey, whatever." And they start getting into an argument. Well, out of just a snap anger, he shoves her and she falls over into the tub, and she's hurt or whatever. So she gets out and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to go to the hospital, check on the baby." So she gets into her car and she drives to the hospital. Well, at the time he was freaking out because he didn't know whether or not he was about to go to jail because domestic violence and stuff like that. So he thought the most rational thing was to end his life. So he went into the bedroom and he committed suicide. And like I said, he was kind of that person that he didn't really think about. He didn't have a lot of decisions going through his mind. He just kind of went off of instinct. His instinct was immediately to do that. So, and the other thing too is, like I said, when his father passed away, that was actually his stepfather. His actual father left when he was real young, and his mom would always tell Tim, like, "Hey, your father was, aggressive, he's drunk, he's abusive, blah, blah." And I think there was a point after that situation where it ran through his mind of, I'm becoming my dad and I don't want that. I don't think the decision that he made obviously was the best.
Right.
But that being said, that's kind of what he decided on. So I got the call. I was at work. I think it was the very next day. Yeah, very next day. I got the call at 9 a.m. from my mom, and I was kind of used to these calls. My grandmother passed away in 2015. Tim's stepdad passed away in 2016, and then he passed away in 2017. So it was just funeral after funeral.
One after another, yeah.
So, and when I got the call, I honestly wasn't in shock. I was just kind of like, okay. And the first thing I did, I looked back at that text message because I was like, when did this happen? And it happened on February 7th. And I had talked to him the morning of February 6th, and he was totally fine. And that's kind of when things started going through my head of like, is there something I could have done? Like, is there something I could have said? But at the same time, by the time I got home to the funeral, I already had in my head, like, there's nothing you could have done. And there's no way you could have saved him. You can't predict the future. Nobody can predict the future. without logical evidence. And there was no logical evidence. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
being this guy that's built like an ox, doesn't open up. He's a very closed-minded and closed-mouthed, I should say. He doesn't really talk a lot kind of guy. It's just not something you would expect out of him, or something that he would post online and say like, I'm
Yeah.
feeling down. So I went through the viewing. I got to do like the family viewing first, and then they did like the big public one. And I had friends from high school that were really close to him coming up to me crying and saying like, hey, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? And kind of like he was with his dad, I was very just blank faced.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't show much emotion. And it's not because I was trying to be like this man, but I think it was just because I was so in shock
Yeah.
about what was going on in the previous years of going through the same motion,
Mm-hmm.
that it was almost numbing, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, we did the funeral, and like I said, I spoke at his funeral, and again, no emotion. I did make some jokes and stuff like that to kind of lighten the mood, but because at the end of the day, funerals are sad, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to remember somebody in a sad way. I want to.
No, I mean, you can celebrate the life, instead of mourn the death. It's a thing that people do, I think, and I think it's a better way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talked about small things here or there. How you would punch me in the face and call me small dude, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was taller than him, but regardless. Yeah. So after the funeral, I went home, but I think what the true emotion I had behind everything was purely anger. And I know now that probably wasn't the best thing, but that was just what was going through me. And I wish I could sit back in my car with myself, who's driving up to North Carolina, and be like, relax, like, it is okay. You can let all this anger out right now, because at the end of the day, there's nothing that you could have changed, and there is no reason to be upset. People go through this stuff every single day of their life. And like we said, when you had, your cousin pass away, I immediately was like, holy crap, this is crazy. Like, this is right. This is 100% right. And like I said, I think throughout that whole experience, I wish that I could go back and not necessarily mourn it, but like you said, celebrate it and and remember better memories. I still do. I still have great memories. Yeah. There's still that there. And there's sometimes where I will post a video. I remember posting a TikTok a really long time ago, and it was, on TikTok, they have sounds that you can use, and the sound was something to like flash back to like the past.
Yeah. So
I had this video where I walked out into my middle of my living room, and I had this hat that I was holding, and I stood up and I went like this, like I was doing something. Obviously nobody's there. And then it cut to me at 2 years old, putting this hat on, my cousin Tim. And like I said, it was just like, I really wish during that whole time I just had the good memories and stuff like that in my head, rather than just anger.
Man, that's the kind of, I love that kind of creativity, man. I love that kind of creativity. It's it brings out real emotion, and it's got real love behind it. And I love that kind of stuff, man. One of the things you talked about when you were telling that hits home with me was when you said you were thinking about what else could I have done. And by the time you were on your way to the hospital, you had kind of, already figured out that there's nothing you could have done. And I went through the exact same thing. And for me, there was evidence for Ashley. There was a lot of evidence over the years. Because it's a lot of, she would post a lot of like teen angst type stuff, and you've seen it before with younger people posting stuff that's like, edgy or sad, or that it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether they're being completely serious or not about how sad their situation is. And also them being young, it's like, well, they need more life experience and then they'll get through it, you know? But I remember there were some times where she would say stuff and it was like, geez, that's like that. She would say something crazy, like this world example, not saying this is exactly what she said, but like, man, this world would just be better off without me. Right. Something along those lines, just in a more realistic Facebook post. And it's like, I would get on there and I'd be like, Ashley, stop. People love you. Like, stop posting this stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I would say to her, just like that. And I was saying it out of love, but I was giving it like, it's how a lot of my family talks to each other. It's about more blunt, a lot more like in your face love. You know what I mean? Like, stop talking about that shit. You know, we love you, you know? And that's what my mind went to. That's what my mind went to on the way to the hospital. Was there were plenty of times where there was evidence, there were signs, but even then, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you could have done. You know, ultimately she had the love. And you know, there will always be that in the back of my mind, like maybe I could have done something, maybe just this one, maybe if I would have reached out in a different way, maybe that would have changed everything, you know, but you can't think like that, you know?
And I think too, the hardest thing, especially when it comes to social media, is some people will go to the extremes to grab attention, to get a video that they'll get a lot of likes on, or to simply have somebody comment. And it's so hard nowadays to tell whether or not someone is serious or they're just striving to get that attention they need. And it's sad. It really is sad. I wish the world was not like this, but it's just kind of how it is.
Well, it kind of goes along with what you were saying with how we've gotten so much more advanced with our texting to where it's just shorter. It's more to the point, and it's like, it's harder to tell, you know, if someone's sad or whatever over text or angry. I feel like it's the same way when there's a formula of videos or posts that you can make that you will get, you know, clicks on, you'll get likes, you'll get comments. And it's hard to tell if what you're making is sincere because you're just doing it for the likes and the comments, you know?
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I will say though, and this is for all the viewers, is that no matter what, it does not matter the situation. There's always somebody that you either can go to or that's going to reach out to you. It's not like you can just simply disappear off this planet and someone's not going to say, where did that person go? Yeah. I think one of the biggest eye openers, and I actually didn't tell you this because it didn't pop in my mind until more recently when a friend of mine talked to me last week about it. And I was like, holy cow, I can bring this up on the podcast. I found somebody who committed suicide. I found them right outside of my work. And I'll be honest, they were there for hours. And I never thought to like stop at that vehicle and be like, hey, is everything okay? Like I saw them at the beginning of my lunch and I had to go back to work at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night because I had to pack some things for a trip I was going on. And it was still there. And when I rolled up, I asked them like, are you okay? And no response. So I flipped a U-turn. I was with a buddy of mine. We called the cops, reported the plate, told them where we were. They were like, all right, stay there. We flipped another U-turn to actually like see inside to see if maybe he would wake up because we thought I was overdosed. And sure enough, you know, I don't want to get into the gruesomes, but of course we found a lifeless body. But I'll be honest, I don't remember his face. I don't remember what vehicle he was driving. I don't even remember the color. The one thing I will take away from that is I listened to 27 missed calls. I listened to that cell phone ring and ring. And there's not, I can't go over there and answer this phone. You know, this is a crime scene. But to sit there for half an hour waiting, you know, and that's at the end of the day, you know, law enforcement, that's totally out of my opinion because But to listen to a phone ring 27 times before somebody shows up and actually answers the phone that's allowed to, that put a big thing in, or a big weight on me. And like, wow, there is always somebody there, and they will make sure that they know it sometimes. And that person wanted to try to make sure they knew it.
Wow, man. That's incredible. I mean, that speaks a lot of volumes. I mean, just that, I mean, it's one of those things that it happens, but until someone actually speaks it out loud, like, yeah, that phone was ringing. It rang 27 times. And there's no one there to answer it until, of course, there is when someone shows up, but that's,
well, I mean, the other thing too is think about the other person on the end of that phone. Like, what is possibly going through their head? Is the worst situation going through their head? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, we have no idea. And then to have to break that kind of news to somebody, and you're right there, is, for myself, there was nothing obviously I could do. I was just a witness. But in my mind, I'm like, this person did everything they possibly could besides driving. And I bet you it was because just the situation or the area we were in, they were restricted to go on to, because you had to have certain key codes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this person was probably restricted to go on to this area, and the only thing that they could do was call them. And maybe they thought in their mind, I will call this person and not call the police, because they're acting that, like we talked about earlier, maybe they're just acting out of the fact they need attention. And then they get that news, and it's heart-wrenching. So, but yeah.
Wow, man. That's a lot, dude. That's good. That's something that I think it makes me think of, Jordan, who Jordan Peterson is?
Yes. Yeah.
Super controversial figure, obviously. But I think, and I posted some on Instagram because I saw it. I think it was a TikTok, actually. You can see like TikToks on Instagram sometimes or whatever. They'll post it on the reels.
The little watermark. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was Jordan Peterson talking about never underestimate the hole that your absence would leave. And I think people forget that. I think if you were to sit down and take stock of all the people and all the people that maybe you think only kind of care about you, they probably care about you more than you think. I bet you could build up quite a list of people that would be devastated, and their life will change forever if you were gone,
100%. I mean, the other thing too is think about the impact of the aftermath. This person, this individual that I was talking about, that I found, this happened 3 or 4 years ago. This happened. Actually, this happened right after Timothy's passing in July. July of that same year. And like I said, that's what, 3 or 4 years ago, 2017. That might be even longer. That might be 5 years ago, whatever. Yeah. Regardless, people are still talking about this person to this day. Like I said, somebody came up to me and talked to me about this to this day. Like, the impact that can have on somebody for years is just crazy to me.
Oh yeah. So. Well, man, I was having a hard time figuring out what I was going to title this podcast, because I was thinking, I was thinking going just simple, the mailman, for people who know you. But then I realized that all of the podcast names are done. I've been putting people's occupation down. You know what I mean? The soldier, the police officer, the pipe worker, the CEO, stuff like that, right? So if put down the mailman, people are probably going to think right off the bat that it's just a mailman.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, now that you said that, man, I might name it 27 times.
Okay. Yeah.
That's big, man. So for the people, for your fans, for your followers, I don't know. I mean, you got a new shop.
Yeah.
Right? You got this new shop, got all kinds of goodies in it now. right? Is it air conditioned? It's hot in
Uh,
Georgia.
it's got fans, but I mean, we're working on that.
Are you dying right now?
No. It's night out, dude. So it's cold. It's nice and cool.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. Yeah, it's never cold down here.
No, I'm not sweating at all. I'm actually feeling really good. I might start working later at night.
So for the people at home, for possible new followers after this, and for your followers, what do you got that's new, man? What's the skinny on what Mailman's doing?
So, just so that you know, when it comes to the car world, a lot of people will name their cars because they do have an impact on on that. So for myself, this lovely yellow car behind me is a 1974 260Z Datsun. And it's got a C2 Corvette engine in it. So it's got a big old V8 in it that's been swapped. It is now called, I decided it today on the way back because I always try to name my cars out, like the first letter has to go with the car. So like my 92 Nissan Skyline is named Skyla. Skyla the Skyline.
Got it.
This is Zeus the Z.
Okay. Zeus the Z. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
the color, yellow, bold,
color.
very bold.
Yeah.
Some might even say too bold. What do you think about that color?
Okay, I'll be honest. Like I said, my Skyline was very, very close to this color. It actually, I think, was just a little brighter. It was my Skyline was safety yellow, I think is what.
Safety yellow.
Safety yellow, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I honestly painted that car because I wanted to be a little different, because I noticed that in the Skyline community, everyone had gray, white, or silver or black Skylines. And I was like, that's stupid. Like, why don't we do something different?
Yeah,
so I did yellow.
Yeah.
And people loved it. It's getting a new paint job. It's getting something that it's a much more mature paint color, but it's because the car's in its final stages. And after that, I don't want to really touch it. I'll cruise around, but that's about it. But this is kind of like the remembrance of the good old days color.
You got to have that yellow somewhere.
Yeah. And I think this color is going to stay. I really do.
Okay.
I kind of have fallen in love with it. At first I was like, I'm going to paint it like a dark blue or something like that. But then I'm like, I got more thumbs up today going or trailering this vehicle home to the garage than I have ever gotten any other vehicle. Like, people were chasing me down just to go like this with this car, and they don't even know who I was. And I loved that back in the day when before I had all this social media, and I just had a cool car and people chased me down. So I think that is the color it's going to stay. I think the engine that's in it is going to stay. We may do some fun modifications to it, but yeah, this will be the new fun track car, and the Skyline, like I said, will be the more mature, going to big car shows kind of car.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's awesome, man. And your Skyline's getting some kind of a rare paint job, right? Like you were kind of telling me it's more of not a color that you find very often.
Yes. So it's called the Skylines. Nissan came out with two special paint colors, and it was called Midnight Purple and Millennium Jade. Midnight
cool sounding colors,
right? So Midnight Purple, if you could imagine, it's a dark purple that transitions between orange and black. Just depends on the sunlight and all that kind of stuff. Millennium Jade is another transitioning color, and it starts off as like an olive drab green, and it will transition at night to a dark forest green, and then when it's super bright out, it'll be much more like a lime green. So it's just it has a little bit of a pearl flake to it. So it looks really cool.
That's good stuff, dude. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to hopefully maybe even ride in it one day on the left side.
I mean, when all of my business trips are done, so pretty much August, I'm expected to have it back. Yeah. I will be taking that thing to and from, and I will be more than happy to give you a ride in that.
That's awesome, man.
So you never sat on the left side of a car, have you?
No, man, I haven't.
That's funny.
I feel like it would be very disorienting. Maybe not. I don't know, but I mean, was it disorienting to drive one to start off with? Is it like, do you have to take it slow?
So For myself, it took me because I bought it about 3 hours north, and it was running and driving, had no issues. So it took me about 3 hours to kind of get used to the feeling. You stick to the right white line a lot. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Compared to over there. But
Look
I
at him.
think
He says over there, like all of us normal drivers are like crazy compared to over there.
over there, you peasant. But I think the hardest thing, which it'll be a hard thing again for me whenever I get the car back, all the controls are backwards. Everything's backwards. Your turn signal, which if I'm driving a left-hand drive car, your turn signal is over on your left side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In a right-hand drive, it's on your right side.
No, man, that's too much.
Windshield wipers are opposite. Everything's opposite. And then the only thing that's the same is the transmission, because mine's manual. So it'll be first, second, third, fourth, but it's now on your left side. So instead of first, like if I'm driving a right-hand drive car, first gear would be like this. Now it's like this. So it's away from you. So not saying that's hard to mess up. It really isn't, but it definitely feels weird. Now, luckily I'm left-handed and like only left-handed. So it's super easy for me, but right-handed, it can be a pain in the butt for them.
And it sounds like it looks like from just your demonstration or the shift pattern's the same. It's just because it's on your left side, it's a bit different.
Yeah. So they pretty much
still the same.
Right. They pretty much swapped everything 180 and then put you on the right side. And all the controls are all exactly the exact same the way they work. It's just everything now is different because you've just moved 180. Well, you know what I mean? Move seats over. So, but yeah. So, and that she, I call her she, it's funny. Like I said, cars have a really big impact on my life.
You talking about Skylar right now? Are you talking about Skylar right now?
Yeah, I'm talking about Skylar. Yeah. Like I said, they have such a big impact, not only on myself, but the community, where somebody is okay with slaving away at their car at 4 a.m. when they have nothing else to do because they love that car so much, instead of just waiting to go to sleep, wake up the next day and do it.
Yeah.
To the point where I have seen grown men cry over the fact that their car blew up. When my Skyline, because I've been through 4 engines, 4 engines on this one car.
Man.
When my last engine gave out, I stopped creating content. I shut everyone around me out because it just hit me so hard. I put so much time and effort into this car. Like, I'm telling you, if I had to do it in 1 week, I would be doing it 24 hours every single day for 7 days to make that happen. For all of that to just fail right in front of my face was probably one of the hardest things I've had to battle, one of the most emotional things I've had to battle. And it took a really big toll on my social media. And we were talking about hate comments earlier. I mean, you want to talk about hate comments? Try having a fully built engine that you just got done, saying you did all this crazy stuff, and you drive the car for less than a week and it blows up.
Well, so is it one of those things where it blows up like while you're live or something? Or is it you have to, is it kind of like you have a responsibility to let your followers know, like, hey, the car is just not working anymore?
Yeah. So it wasn't on live. It was a responsibility of mine to let people know, because I got to the point where I was so done with the car. I sold it to my best friend. And luckily he was gracious enough for me to buy it back from him down the road. But I had to take a break off of that car because I had built up such a good reputation with it for it to just fail in front of me. And it wasn't like a fail like, the turbo went out, or I need to get new tires or something. No, I have to essentially, the 6 months that you guys have been following me, watching me build this thing, now I have to redo all of it all over again. And I just, at that time, was like, I don't want to do this. I'm done. I am done with this car. I'm done with this chassis, whatever. I love the engines, but I'm done with them. Like, I don't want to deal with them. So that's when I talked to my friend, or my best friend. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to sell the car. And he's like, well, hold on, let me buy it. And trust me, you won't want to sell it. And I was like, okay. And then that's when last year, he was like, do you want the car back? And I was like, yeah, my views are down. People are hating me because I don't have the car back, and the car is literally sitting in your garage. Like, let me just come get this thing back off of you.
That's
So,
awesome. I mean, I'm glad he kept it. And, maybe he's just secretly, he was holding it because he knew you made that emotional decision. He's like, he'll be back.
Yeah.
He'll be back for it.
He's known me for 6 years now. And just to kind of give you an understanding of how long me and him have been hanging out and talking, so Snapchat has streaks, right? We are at a 5-year streak. Yeah.
Well, so now, if I remember correctly, a streak is like meaning that you snap each other at least once every 24 hours, a day.
We're at 1,547 or something like that days.
Wow. I mean, that's got to be some kind of record somewhere.
I don't know if it is.
I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone who's been able to like nonstop every day for 5 years maintain at least. Man, that's incredible, dude.
Well, and I've never told him this, and maybe he'll watch this and see it and be like, "Oh, you're too sweet." He had filled in the gap that Tim was at. And I mean, to the point in which me and him have been competitive, just like me and Tim, even to the point where my mom was like, when's the next, I'll say his name, when's the next time Cody's going to come up? And I am really grateful for who he is as a person, and the fact that he didn't even know the impact that he had on my life, and the fact that he was able to fill that in. And we met prior to Tim passing away, but we didn't really like hang out or do the amount that we do now.
Yeah.
Until he passed. And, it wasn't like I was like, oh, let me just grab you and forget about him. It was more like he was a distraction, because I know there were nights that I had put work into my car or my motorcycle that I had at the time to distract myself from thinking about Tim, or to think in my head, is Tim looking down and being like, that's what I would have done, or that's awesome, So
that's awesome, man. I am happy. I'm happy that you found someone that can help and be there in those. It's my wish. I hope everyone finds that person. Not everyone's so lucky. I hope everyone someday is, to get a person that's just can be there for them and fill that void if there is one,
Yeah, for sure.
So as we start to wind this old podcast down, man, do you got, normally I ask people if they have, advice or any kind, it's just something for the viewers, but for you specifically, if you have a message for your fans, for your followers, or just in general, I mean, what do you got, man?
Yeah. So I guess for the people that watch your podcast, and maybe some of the followers that are from my page that don't understand, is at the end of the day, when it comes to the car world and it comes to just the regular world, everyone has a personality, and everyone sometimes restricts their personality because they feel as though someone won't like it, or a group won't like it. Cars are a personality for people, or for car people like myself. I represent who I am as a person through my cars. Some people don't do that. Some people do it with the style of what they wear. Some people do it in other hobbies. My biggest thing is, don't let someone or something deter you from showing who you truly are. Because at the end of the day, you are who you are. There's a reason why you are on this earth. So don't hold yourself back from something you could possibly be.
Man, I like that a lot. All right, Anthony, the mailman, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I really enjoyed having you on here. And hopefully I'll see you around soon, dude.
Well, I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity that you have given me, and for yourself, for all of your followers and my followers. Just stay tuned, because we're about to take this thing to a whole nother level.
It's going to be sick.
So,
all right, man. Talk to you later.
All right. Yep.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you haven't yet, check out our shop at www.twny.life. We have sweaters, shirts, hats, and much more. Stay strong out there, because this world needs you. And I'll see you next time.
Because of me, because of time, and what's in life, because of you, because of you.